Hi, first grade families. This is our opening curriculum night. So I have a presentation for you, and after that, you can contact me if needed. So here is us. We have our room, hopefully when we go back, is room 60, which is why your Seesaw accounts were named Fantastic First Graders in room 60. Just a little introduction about myself. I've been working for this district since about 2001. This is my second year with Wilson Foundation Academy. These are some babies I used to work with some years ago. I have two children of my own at home. One is currently also fully remote, so I feel everything that you're feeling, trust me. And my other is an essential worker, so. All right, to attendance first. Attendance is taken every single day. By the time your baby gets into their exploratory or essentials class, and when I say that, I mean their PE class or art or library or something like that, I hand over the Zoom meeting and I instantly put in their attendance. On Wednesdays, attendance is taken by your student turning in their work. So it is expected that every Wednesday, the assignments that are posted in Seesaw, that they need to be completed. Uniforms we're not worrying about so much right now because we're not in school. But while we are actually in a distance learning setting, we're not mandatory the uniforms, but we do ask that you physically get your baby ready to get their actual minds ready for school. When we return to school, the children are expected to wear a uniform, but I feel strongly, as again, I have experienced the same thing as you have starting last spring, that on days that I let my son kind of start his Zoom calls in his pajamas or start his work in his pajamas, those were much rougher days. Having him physically get ready for school kind of changed the way his mindset was in regards to getting things done. Moving on to our content, learning in math. So usually the first content area that we explore in class is our math. Here is a direct link to the first grade resources that we use. We are currently using core curriculum. As a district, we have decided to kind of back up for a lot of our children as they missed quite some learning at the end of the school year. So I have backed up. We are currently, as you can see, we are working in the kindergarten curriculum for math. That will change, and I will kind of pull some kindergarten skills and blend them with the first grade skills as well. Writing is embedded in our literacy block. So within this workshop, students will explore author's craft and applying skills into their own writing pieces. Some of the pieces that I'm hoping to get done this year are the personal narrative, persuasive writing, response to literature, poetry. They love that. But the writing will be embedded. It's just slow coming because of where we are currently. The literacy block. We're going to be using with this new curriculum that we have, which is MyView, Mi Visión, which is on the next slide. It has the 5 components of literacy, has the phonemic awareness, the word identification, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. So all of those skills will be hit on with the new curriculum. They also have the digital component for our learners. Here is what that looks like. So that orange workbook that they're working from daily is our new literacy curriculum. It's called MyView. The Mi Visión is that it is offered in Spanish as well. So it is a bilingual program. For science and social studies. So we have been talking about our school being an IB learning school. So we integrate some of these skills and and pieces into our science and social studies block, especially where applicable. Currently, we are also integrating that with our literacy block as it's talking about communities at this point. Here are some of the IB traits that we will be identifying throughout the year. You'll hear this throughout the entire year, and we'll talk about and have different anchor books to go with that. Our daily schedule, again, your Zoom call begins right at 9 o'clock. I start checking in with the babies right then and there, as soon as they're kind of flooding in all at once. Right after our check-in and our announcements, we have our exploratory is what we used to call it. Now we're calling them our essentials class. That is from 9:15 to 10 o'clock. We then have our math block, and that is broken up into smaller segments so that we get a whole group lesson as I would in the classroom, and then smaller sections in small groups. Now, the tricky part about this or in this digital world is keeping the students still logged in, even though they are working on their Zearn, or perhaps by now you might be working with Prodigy or something like that, but they have to stay on the call, and then I bring them back in from the waiting room. It does not mean that they are kicked out of the Zoom call. Some friends who are intermittently attending class are still struggling with that. After math, we have lunch, and we are given an hour for lunch for those families who need to go ahead and grab that and then come back. By 12:30, I have attendance started once again for the literacy block. And we do the same thing here with the whole group lesson given, the phonemic awareness piece, and then we break off into smaller groups to concentrate on our reading aspect of that at that time. We have an intervention block, and so we have our kiddos in a couple of groups. Myself and Ms. Chinapi work with these small groups for math, ELA, and intervention throughout the day. Science and social studies, is technically offline. So what I have been doing is starting the lesson for them as an introductory lesson or informational lesson in the beginning of that time. And then I give them an opportunity to go on Seesaw to complete an activity that aligns with that particular lesson. Here, and I apologize, I did explain this to my parents before. When I set up the plan book that I gave you access to, this was prior to learning that this schedule would look the way it does. So on my plan book, it does list A, B, C, D, E day, and we're not following that for our remote learning at this point. So Monday is your A day, Tuesday is your B day, Wednesday they do not have classes, they have asynchronous work, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And Thursdays is art and foreign language. That's a C day. Friday is a D day where they have physical education again. So it's easier through remote learning to keep that on a steady schedule. So they're doing it by, how we used to do it quite some years ago. Wednesdays, your student will be assigned the journal that we had used before, and it goes throughout the entire day. So if I were to go back to, oh heavens, if I were to go back to the schedule where we would start with math, and then we had ELA, and then we had science and social studies, we had a reading portion, we had a spelling portion in there somewhere, that journal will have all of those types content-based assignments in there. Your child is expected to complete all tasks. I do attach some videos to get them to wiggle, to also practice some numbers and letter sounds and whatnot as they're doing so, but they do have to complete the entire journal. They can kind of put a pause on it if they're not done for that day or for that time or portion of time, and they can put it in draft mode, and then they can come back. But it should be done by the end of the day. I do go through each Wednesday and check to see if they're done, and then approve or not approve them, or give suggestions on what they did or did not miss. Speaking of work or assignments, grading here, participation is actually 30% of their grade, of their final grade. and that's per quarter. So the students are expected to actually do the digital assignments that they're assigned to, preferably in a timely fashion. I don't give huge assignments out except for on those Wednesdays. I give a couple of little things to do that reinforce the learning that we did during the day. But they should be finishing these assignments pretty easily and have that done the same day that it was assigned. All right, so what can you expect of me? I am supportive. I will be and caring and safe and create a very good learning environment in this digital platform. I do like to keep close and constant communication. We have discussed as a a classroom that the 5 different platforms that I was using was too much, and I didn't want parents to feel that I wasn't getting to you. So we have now moved on to Seesaw Family app, and that's the one platform I'll be using. I know some parents are still calling me, which is fine. Just please realize that I do not answer my phone when I am teaching, just as I wouldn't in my classroom. The Seesaw app runs in the background of my computer all day long, though, so that I do check frequently. I've had this conversation with parents already. I will treat your baby as I treat my own. And so we have talked in various ways on what that looks like. What should I expect of you, my parents? To supervise and support. That does not mean to help with the answers. I understand your need to help them or give them the answer or give them the word. It does not help me. It makes it much more difficult as a teacher to gauge what strengths your child may have if it presents as though they know something that they do not. So being supportive in a way as a parent is to help them figure that out, but not giving them the answers every time. The other really important piece here is in this digital platform is that when, if at all possible, that you have your child and their device sitting as close to the Wi-Fi as possible, hopefully within the same room, or Wi-Fi if you're using it. Oftentimes we have found that when the child is in a couple rooms over from where the Wi-Fi sits or the Wi-Fi sits, because it's such a small bandwidth, like there's a lot of communication pieces there and it lags that Zoom call, which is oftentimes what you parents are hearing in the background, that feedback when kids are actually answering the questions. You hear all that kind of like slowed speech and feedback noise in the background. I also am expecting that you are going to keep me in close and constant communication as well. If you know that your child is sick, I'm expecting that we will treat this as it were a regular classroom. You wouldn't send your baby to school sick, so as long as I know what is going on, so that I can change your attendance accordingly, is fine. But sick babies it's especially our babies, our little ones, the 6-year-olds, they cannot concentrate in front of a screen if they're not feeling well. And just getting rest is probably the best thing that they can do. If they want to try to, go on Seesaw and finish something, or attempt, reading a book later on, that is beautiful. But the open communication with letting me know what's happening, either you have an appointment, I still have to know so that I can mark your attendance. And talk to them about school every day. Find some connections, that we were talking about, communication in school and people, riding around the block today. Make connections at home with them as well. Assignments, we talked about that. The children are responsible for completing the work assignments posted on Seesaw every day. On Wednesdays, the entire journal is to be completed and submitted by the day's end. That means, it could be, I will check it at night. I can assure you, after I put my son down, I go in there and I check to see whose assignments are done. but I don't like to call children out during the day when their peers are around them in the classroom. I would just kind of pull them aside and say, hey, you need to finish this. But we don't have that platform right now. So I would appreciate, just assisting with them, completing those journal assignments and the daily work assignments. Also, the reasoning behind me not putting so much work on Seesaw is that I do realize that they are also getting assignments from their other courses or classes. So I don't want to inundate them with assignments just to keep them busy. So I like to kind of concentrate on the specific content learning. At home reading, um, in order for them to become proficient at doing something, they need to practice it nightly. Building stamina is something that we would be doing in the classroom. And all that means is that they're building the amount of time that they could sit and read over and over and over again. So if your kid is not, fluent in reading and independent reading, they can practice reading to an adult. We've been practicing to, oh, there's my tiger back there, to our little stuffies or our stuffed animals, to a pet, to a sibling. But any reading is a wonderful thing. They need to be practicing. I have uploaded some of the decodable readers, but we really need to get them reading. Tonight, I will actually, through Seesaw, send a list of different comprehension questions that you can ask them after they're done reading, just to make sure that they actually understand what they're reading. If they're segmenting and they're reading word for word, more than likely they're not going to understand what they're reading unless it's a small picture book, and that they can actually read the pictures in the book, which that is a form of reading. But to really understand a reading or a book, the child needs to be reading fluently. And that's our goal for the end of first grade, is to be reading fluently, grade level text, and grade level high frequency words and sight words they should be very familiar with. So I have some information here. Please visit the website often. I try to keep in touch with what we're doing there. Usually I would be posting pictures of all this fun stuff we're doing in the classroom. But I am trying to keep some information loaded there for my parents, connecting to the important sites. So I've mailed some login information, which I did show the kids earlier as I mailed them out. They're kind of going out one at a time, or a couple at a time, as I confirm some addresses. But, I sent a schedule so that you can put that on your fridge somewhere. And then there's a packet of all these different free websites that I was able to find for them. I know, again, as a parent, they're going to get very quickly bored of the few apps or games that we have to play through the Rock Connect system. So I have found some other sources to help with some of the content and the practice and fluency. Here is my classroom website. If you actually go to our school website, which I also have posted in Seesaw, you would find me under teachers, and I'm page 3 because of my last name. Again, here's my contact information. Emailing me, I have to check that frequently throughout the day. So every break that I have, before I get started in the day and before I am checking out for the night, I do check my email frequently. The best way, I should say, is to connect with me through that Seesaw Family app. And I have spoken to many families regarding that. The Family app is very different than the class app, which is what your child uses to get their assignments. I have provided all families with my cell number, but please do know I will not answer while I'm teaching. If it's during, a break time where they happen to be in their essentials class, yes, I will answer as long as I'm not on the other line, or I will call back. But I take phone calls before and after school and, during my lunch period. But I do also not answer after a certain time of night unless it's an emergency. So I think that's it. Now, this is one of my classes. In my class, we would have been learning this iPick rap. It's just teaching children how to be selective when they're choosing a book to read, and that they have a choice. But this is what I usually play for the kids, and then we kind of learn the song and learn what it means to pick their own reading, and that's it. I hope that was, I know that was a lot of information, but I hope that it was information that you were either looking for or needed. Again, you know how to contact me, and have a good night.